Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast, episode number 91. Hello, our Croissarty podcast Chief Naudig in. My name is Mr. Gareth Evans. Joining me today is Mr. Henry. I've got a very good PC now, just in case you haven't mentioned it yet. Cooper.
Well, yeah, just in case anyone didn't know, it's a gift from Metal Shop. That's why I keep bringing it up. It's for him, really. It's a call out for him to be like, I'm virtually sucking his dick, basically. That's all I'm saying.
Well, every time you mention it in the videos, you do say, oh, my PC is very good now, by the way. I think that's what reference Peter Clark is making. So thanks for Peter Clark for the Henry's middle name today, because that was one left in one of the comments this week. If you've got a middle name for Henry yourselves, leave it in the comments, and I'm sure to find it. I've got a couple of others that were left after that, but we'll save it for the comments later on. And let's get on to the agenda. Firstly, Henry, how's it going with you? What have you been up to playing this week? And chat. Give us a chat.
Have a chat. Should we have a chat? Well, this week, because there's been nothing new, but with this new all-dancing PC that was given to me by the gracious Metal Shark, which I think eternally grateful for. That was really hard to get out. I kept stumbling. I've been playing around on Game Pass, downloading a few things here and there, and my most recent adventure has been in The Long Dark, which is great. I've been having loads of fun. I think it's 3 episodes long. And I'm right at the end of the second one. Like, I've done the final thing of the second one. I just need to, end it, you know?
Yeah.
Cool. So, if anyone doesn't know, it's it's an indie game, first person, but definitely not a first person shooter. There's really, not what you're doing at all. Your plane crashes in the middle of the Canadian mountains, arsehole of nowhere. And your job is to survive, basically. And you've got to manage your health, tiredness, temperature, food, and drink all independently. And if you get injured, that will factor into certain ones. If you get too cold, that will be a problem. If you get wet, if you get frozen, all of those are really important things you've got to juggle. So like I said, it's first-person perspective, but it's not like a combat game. The main thing you're fighting is just the weather and trying to eat what you can.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of a story.
It's a game with an incredible atmosphere. I think that the first-person perspective really does well in this game. I played it since it was in early access, and since it was only a sandbox experience before they even did the first-person, the narrative story-based. I didn't actually finish the narrative after it released, but yeah, I've got very fond memories of that game. Just the struggle to survive in itself. When the howling wind comes at you, the wolves and the bears and everything in the world is there to try and make you die, and you've just got to survive as best you can. I think it's a great game. I'm kind of annoyed because there's 3 difficulties, and it's basically the extent to which you need supplies and how quickly your cores will deplete. I picked the default one, which is not my normal rule, as I've said before, which is you've never played The Long Dark before, pick this one. And now I'm like, it's too easy. I've got so much food. My backpack weight limit is constantly at the top. I've got loads of good warm clothes now, so there's much less pressure, and I kind of want that pressure again. But I don't think you can change the difficulty mid game, which is a bit annoying. But at the beginning, I died twice, straight away, because I was like, I can't fucking do shit. I've got hypothermia, and I'm like, so when you get hypothermia, you rock around everywhere, and you can't walk properly, and you're basically on a countdown until you die. And I could see a fire right there, but I couldn't reach it because the controls went all haywire, and then he just died. He just froze to death before he could rescue his friend. Because that's the story, is you crash and you're trying to find your friend, and then you bump into a few different people who are all really fucking weird. It's got this random spooky vibe that I totally didn't expect, but it's really cool. I'm really enjoying blind old woman. Yeah, blind old woman just sitting there in an empty ass town, mumbling creepy stuff. How does she look after herself?
What?
How is she looking after herself?
She looks after herself by getting you to fill her fridge with 8,000 calories worth of food. That took fucking ages.
She bribes people. That's how she survives.
And it turns out she didn't even help. She didn't even help because she was too dottery and lost her marbles a little bit.
Yeah. It's a good game. I'd recommend that on anyone. I think it was free on Epic Store recently.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure
I think
of it.
so.
And that was a great acquisition. I think it was over the Christmas period, but it was a great addition, that's for sure. Myself, I've been playing Valheim. I've been getting stuck in mainly single player, but a little bit of multiplayer when I first started, and I realised that I think I'll enjoy it a little bit more on single player just to explore and just adventure through the game, just not knowing what to expect and not having anyone there to help me. Because again, it's another survival game. It's the likes of which that you don't really get on consoles. A bit like The Long Dark, an early access survival game, and it's very much in the same vein as that. And it's definitely a PC experience, and I'm enjoying it to a large extent. But are you tempted to play that yourself?
Yeah, I got that, and I played it a little bit in single player, but I was kind of in the middle of my Long Dark zone. So I probably played maybe like 2 hours or something. And it was really fun, just exploring, and it's totally aimless, which can sometimes frustrate me because I'm like, if I'm just playing for the sake of playing, I need something. I need a goal to drive for. But I liked just the simplicity of the loop of chop down a tree, you get a bit of wood, mix it with this and this, and there you go. Now you've got a better axe to chop down a tree even quicker. But yeah, I definitely think in a multiplayer environment, it'd really, really, really thrive. I just haven't got around to that yet, but I'm sure I will at some point.
Yeah. And the other thing of note is that the Outriders demo is launching today. Are you of a mind to play that? You did mention it in the video this week, right?
I'm absolutely intending to play that, assuming I actually remember, because there's so many games that are like about to come out, but have sort of semi-unconfirmed release dates. Like Kenna Bridge of Spirits, they sort of half leaked that it was coming out in March. We still haven't heard anything, although there's a PlayStation, what do they call it? State of Play tonight, which will probably share a bit more information about that. And my week's been a bit skew-iffed because I've been sleeping, getting really late nights. But yes, I plan to play Outriders, which is the long way to answer that question.
Is it just the day that it's available, which is the 25th of February?
Yes, 25th.
One day?
No, it's going to be available up until launch and then live past launch apparently, and it's not a beta. They've clearly in black and white said it's not a beta, so it's its own thing, and they've said it's not a game as a service, so they're not planning to constantly update it and constantly change it. It's meant to be a complete experience from day one when the game launches, and the demo in the same way will be its own isolated experience. Yeah. You can transfer progress though, which will be good.
That is good. I think it is the same demo. It was. It feels like a few years ago now, but last January, the very last trip away I had before the lockdown was to Warsaw, where I got to play Outriders, an early version of it, and it was the demo that I think they're releasing now, which is like the first mission and then a boss fight. And I played it and I enjoyed it, and then there was impressions that came out shortly after that where everyone was panning it for just another generic looter shooter type game, and there was a lot of negative impressions from people who hadn't played it, and I'd played it and I was like, this isn't right, this isn't my experience with the game. It looks one way, yes, it looks generic, and there's a lot of genericism there, especially with the story. It feels a lot like Andromeda. You come into a new solar system or a new galaxy, and you just you're the forefront of human exploration, and you're trying to set up a new settlement, and then shit goes down, and then the story goes from there, and that's exactly the setup in Andromeda as well. So it doesn't feel like anything new, and the gameplay is what sets it apart, I think. And I think they're doing well to put the demo out there, because if you've of a mind to like co-op games, this is what it is. It's not a live service game. It's not based on milking you of money in the long term. That's at least what they're saying about this game. It's about the co-op, and that's my impression. I haven't played it, and it's about the fun that you have. There's 4 different classes. I'm not going to go into too much, because you'll play it for yourself, and you'll probably see for yourself that it's slightly different. It's from the same developers as Bulletstorm, and it's veered a little bit away from that, but it isn't a live service looter shooter type game from my experience, and there's more fun to it than that. They're focused on the gameplay, and I think from what I experienced at the very least, it should be of interest to those of you who are interested in that genre, and just pick it up for free. Yeah, I think
it's a demo.
More people will get their hands on it.
You can play it for free. You lose nothing but a little bit of time.
I've got a sneaky feeling this game's going to do well despite all the early negative impressions. But that's just,
and it's a new IP as well. It's a brand new thing. It's not based on anything else. And Square Enix are publishing it, but who is it? People Can Fly, the developers, they still own it, right? Am I making that up? Yeah.
I'm not sure whether Square Enix do own the IP, but People Can Fly are the developers. I'm not sure about that. There was a bit of
they're undecided.
uncertainty.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, to be honest. I can't actually remember because it was a while ago. But yeah, Square Enix are publishing it. And
So
as
where
bad
are
as
sorry, I've completely lost my place in the document for some reason. Where is it gone?
okay,
No, there we are.
I shall press ahead then. We've got a few things to discuss today, other than the faff that we've just been talking. We've got the cancellation of Anthem next. We've got Cyberpunk's update delay. We'll be taking questions from the community over on the Patreon Discord. We'll be reading the Triggered Fanboy comment of the week, and then the more YouTube comments after that, and then the bad dad joke of the week to finish off. So first off, Anthem finally dies as the headline, but it's not technically true. Anthem next is dead. Anthem, the core game is remaining, whatever there is of it.
Yeah.
But the future production is ceasing as of now on Anthem. So this was announced via a blog post in which executive producer Christine Daly give out the details. Basically, since I think it was 12 months ago, they said, we're overhauling Anthem. We're going to make it good again. We've got a team of 30 people working on it. Stick with it, guys. That was the news that we had. But Anthem Next, the overhaul is being cancelled, and the team is moving on to other projects, aka Dragon Age and Mass Effect, that team being BioWare employees. And the game will remain playable in its current state. So whatever there is of Anthem, you can still play it into the future, but it won't be updated anymore. Kind of like they did with Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, when they decided they couldn't make any money out of that. Becoming sort of a theme here, right?
This is dead in every conceivable way. There's no other way to put it. They're not shutting down the servers. That's the only other thing they could do to 100% kill it and make it completely unplayable. But I mean, if you go onto a game which no one was playing anyway and get no extra content and do the same shit you were doing when did it come out? 2 years ago? It was like February 2018, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fucking dead game to me, man.
19, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, saying it's dead is a bit hyperbolic. Technically not. Technically still alive, but life support would be the
it's a fucking zombie.
Even if life support machine's been turned off, so it's a cripple. It's in a coma, and it's not getting any more support.
They've signed the do not resuscitate waiver, and they're just seeing what happens.
Yeah, and they've signed the all the forms to harvest all the organs for other. And they're moving on with it, essentially. So it's time you moved on too. That's what they're saying. So the blame of it, according to Kristen Daly, a lot of it went to the pandemic situation, having to work from home, the difficulties surrounding the fact that the world's gone to shit at the moment. And one quote which I particularly liked from it was, quote, "Game development is hard," end quote. So there you go. Lessons learned. If BioWare hadn't known it beforehand, game development is hard, and this is the second in a row that they've cancelled support on and just moved on with their lives. And I'm a bit speechless about this, really, because it's one of those that you look at No Man's Sky and you look at games like, I guess Fallout 76 is they're supporting these games and they're turning it around. They've made a commitment. They're continuing to support it. But EA just like, nah, fuck it. We'll just move on and take money off other people in other ways. Like, we know it's the mentality that people have already paid for this game and expected a certain amount of content, which will never be delivered. The game will never be realized in its full in the state that it's supposed to be played in, and they just wipe their hands and move on, and like people expect nothing to be said about it. I don't. Is this the way we're going now? Is this the way the industry is now? These big AAA games. There's something very, very shady about this.
They're just kind of getting away with it. It's like, we launched the game. It was a shit show. Then we quote unquote promised to overhaul it and repair it as Anthem Next or Anthem 2.0 or whatever. And then we're just not going to fucking do that. We're still not living up to the fundamental things that they said were going to be in the game. Well, for starters, it launched in just a shit state in terms of performance, and from what I gather, for the 7 people who still play it, it still doesn't have good performance. There's still a bunch of matchmaking issues, still just quality of life things that aren't really there, beyond actual content and things to do. And they've just given up, and it's a total con. People paid actual money and have been given nothing. They got nothing.
That's it. You consider the people who might have bought it over the last 12 months on the promise that the game is going to, it's got current content and it's going to get more content in future. Those people have been, as well as all the people in the first place who got shortchanged. It's a scam. This is what this is at this point. I can't think of any other major games as a service game to be cancelled in this way. Games as a service is supposedly, you get support long into the future. This is 2 years down the line. This is unprecedented. Like I can't remember this happening before in another game, and it makes me think like the whole gold rush. I think that the way I characterize it, of gaming, huge AAA games in companies trying to capitalize on games as a service looter shooter based games. A lot of them plowed loads of money and resources into getting a game like this. BioWare were a historically single-player, narrative-driven game developer, jumped on the bandwagon because EA pushed them into it. They jumped out of Mass Effect Andromeda onto this project, and all singing all dancing. This is BioWare magic. You're like, BioWare, it's going to be huge. Everyone loves BioWare. Completely tarnishing their reputation in the process. A complete stillbirth of a game, and now they just.
It's a gross thing to say, but it's exactly what it is. It's fucking something. Like, I thought of something, but I don't even want to say it because it's so unpleasant.
Yeah. So the gold rush is the gold rush over? Is my question. I mean, does that mean that they will think twice again? Well, hopefully it does. I mean, this is my silver lining in all of this. For all the people who've been screwed over by this game, I hope that there's a silver lining in that EA and the likes of EA in future. And Ubisoft have suffered it. They've with Breakpoint as well, pushing out these shit live service based games, looter shooter games, and there's just nothing to them other than the opportunity to take money off people for what's basically a shell of a product. And I think that hopefully, at the very least, this gets them to reconsider just shitting out these games year on year, just throwing a load of generic bullshit crap into one meal, eating it all up, and then shitting it out for people to try and take money off people. People are wising up, and hopefully, this won't happen too much in future.
I mean, hopefully, like we complain about it all the time, and we're tiny, we're not much, but all of the big people, all big creators and stuff complain about it. No one seems to like this, and at the base, consumer level, they don't seem to like it. Media figures don't seem to like it. Nobody likes it, apart from EA, and clearly they don't like it that much because it's not fucking worked for them. So surely they've got to learn. Are they that stupid? They are, EA aren't stupid. Andrew Wilson's not stupid. They are intelligent business people who are very good at extracting money from people. But clearly this one didn't extract enough money from people. So they need to revise their plan and figure out how to extract more money from people. And I think a good way to do that is make a fucking game that works. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that has enough content to keep people playing.
Yeah.
And the other game, which is, I guess, in critical condition at the moment, is Avengers. I think that's the next big one to fall. I think
the last domino.
If any of them do, it'll be Avengers. And how the hell can they screw that up? Being one of the biggest IPs on the planet, made into a game, and nobody's playing it. Like the people playing this game now are very few and far between. And they just dropped a new content in the form of was it Hawkeye?
Yep. I think he's not out yet. He's out in March, but I mean, soon. How much of the game is even left at that point? How much of the fan base? There's virtually no one there.
Yeah,
it's echoing the exact same mistakes that Destiny made, that Anthem made, that the Division made. They're all such high-profile games. They're not small little indie experimental projects or whatever. They're some of the biggest companies in the world that should be able to pull. If anyone can pull it off, it should be them. but all of them have failed in one form or another. Destiny 2, to be fair, has still got a solid fan base. They've done a better job of maintaining the content kind of stream. People still complain about it, though. Like, I'm not going to say that it's done well, because people are always fucking screaming, oh, this thing's shit, so I don't fucking know if it's actually a success. But all of these big companies keep cocking it up, and I don't understand how. No, that's a lie. I do know how. They're greedy. That's it.
Yeah, they're putting profits over gameplay, and I think that if you take an example like Valheim, which is a game out of nowhere, independently produced, and it's got hundreds of thousands of people playing it. One time it's like 3rd or 4th on the most played list on Steam. If you look at the bare bones of that game, it looks nothing like the visual quality of a game like Anthem. Nothing like it. But at its core, it's a very playable, very enjoyable game. And that's all there is to it. It doesn't matter. It shows you. This is the lessons that they won't take in the big corporate offices. They won't look at this and see it as a lesson. Like, it shows you that above aesthetics is core gameplay. Gamers want a game which is engaging and keeps them playing, and it's just a game with game things in it, not just something that looks good. Looks like an Iron Man simulator type of game. And it, it's puddle thin. So I know what that tells you. It's a lesson to be learned. But if I think right, what I would do as a exec is break like 1,000 man, instead of having 1,000 men teams working on a game, like Ubisoft did the same. Just break them into like teams of 50. You'd have 20 games of like possibly some might be shit, some might be good. But if you get one like Valheim, oh my God, you got 20 chances. It's like fishing. Yeah. You got to throw out you cast your line. You're not going to catch that many fish. But when you do catch a fish, it's going to be a bloody damn big one.
And then the technique you use to get that fish, you keep fucking doing it, and you make it better. You launch your 20 games. Whichever one is the most successful, it's like, right, all of those burnt ones, no one's playing them. We don't need to waste resources on them. Let's move all of that and stick it into this one. Like that. It seems like such a no-brainer.
Yeah. But who knows what goes on the minds? They've got to please their bloody their investors and stuff like that. But that's just a can of worms in itself. So there you go. They've dropped Andromeda in the first place to work on Anthem, did BioWare, and now they're dropping Anthem support to work on Dragon Age or the new Mass Effect. And will that be the final domino in the chain? Will there be more to come? Who knows? One guy for sure on Reddit made a good point. The Iceman 2288 said this comment on Reddit: the new BioWare, number 1, shit out half-assed game. Number 2, promise to fix it. Number 3, don't. The drooling mob will get excited for your next game anyway. Yep. And I think that kind of sums everything up.
Yeah, I think like we're preaching to the choir here. Like we're talking to our fan base who will most likely align with our opinions on it. So we're all gonna be like, yeah, this fucking sucks. But millions of people still bought the game, and millions of people will continue to buy their games. Call them casuals or whatever you want, but they've got people who just see the flashy stuff and maybe don't look a little bit deeper or check out reviews or anything like that, and then they get fucked over. It's them who get fucked over. We're fine. I'm not buying it. I didn't buy Anthem. I've lost literally nothing apart from maybe a bit of time when I played, I think, the beta or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's disaster.
So there you have it. It's dead and buried. And let's move on to another game which, again, released in a bad state, but hopefully this can turn things around a la No Man's Sky rather than a la Anthem, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. Now, we had some news, right, Henry?
Yeah, so I think it was last week, the developer CD Projekt Red had a huge hack that supposedly stole a whole bunch of source code for Cyberpunk, The Witcher 3, an unreleased version of The Witcher 3, which is potentially a next-gen version. Well, current gen, now PS5, Xbox Series 1. And stuff for Gwent and I think Thronebreaker as well. Basically every game CD Projekt has ever published. And a bunch of like legal documentation, administrative stuff, HR stuff, that sort of stuff. Some people threw out conspiracy theories that maybe it's fake. Maybe CD Projekt did this themselves because they don't want to release the next patch. And seemingly in line with those sorts of conspiracy theories, I'm not saying I believe them or what, but the patch that was meant to come out this month, which has 3 days left of it at the time of recording, is not coming, and they announced it with 3 kind of pretty rote, standard PR kind of tweets. There's not really anything particularly interesting, but I'll quickly read them out. While we dearly wanted to deliver patch 1.2 for Cyberpunk 2077 in the time span we detailed previously, the recent cyber attack on the studio's IT infrastructure and extensive scope of the update mean this will unfortunately not happen. We'll need some additional time. Our goal for patch 1.2 goes beyond any of our previous updates. So this is them being like, it's just because it's so big. This update it's going to fix everything. That's why we couldn't get it done. We've been working on numerous overall quality improvements and fixes, and we still have work to do to make sure that's what you get. Yeah, because we're trying to do it right this time, because we fucked up last time. With that in mind, we're now aiming for release in the second half of March. So it's not a huge delay. It's kind of about a month. It's not the news we enjoy sharing, but we want to make sure we launch this update properly, because we didn't launch the game properly. Stay tuned for more information as time draws closer. Thank you for your continued patience and support. Well, I imagine a lot of people are really running short on patience.
Well, it's not the news they enjoy sharing, but they're getting damn good at it, aren't they?
Oh, they're well practiced, aren't they?
I mean, they've done it 4 or 5 times now, at the very least. I'm just surprised it's not in like a garish yellow text that nobody can read.
I bet someone replied to it like mocking that up. Just copy the text, put it on the template, and then that's it. That's done. So they officially shared that. That's officially shared by the Cyberpunk Twitter account. And none of this is really surprising based on the hack. Whether or not it is or isn't true, the fact of the matter is the patch is now delayed. But then Jason Schreier's back at it again for the second time in this bloody video. And he had a little... It wasn't like a full expose. It was only, like 3, 4, 5 paragraphs long. A little article up on Bloomberg. And he said that the hack was a massive, massive problem for the employees who have been speaking to him. And that seems to suggest that maybe this isn't some grand conspiracy, because why would employees who have already slammed the company for like crunch and all that sort of stuff before now follow the company line of this narrative of the hack or whatever? So it sounds true to me. And it seems that part of the problem is that the VPN to access their remote network has been compromised in the hack. So pretty much everyone is working from home, and now they can't access the infrastructure. They can't access the network, so they literally can't do the work. They can't do what needs to be done. So they've just been out of work for 2 weeks. Now, 2 weeks holiday on a crunchy game like Cyberpunk, that sounds great on paper. The question is, are they getting paid? Because I would imagine most of the staff, employed full-time, known as staff and employees, they should be totally covered by their legal rights and stuff. They should be probably entitled to pay or anything like that. But contractors are totally fucked, because they won't have any sort of safety net like that. So it's going to be a real bad time for some people, and it's not looking good at all. And Schreier's got this quote on his. It's not a quote from someone I'm quoting him. It's in his article, which I think is kind of sums up everything. Despite the unplanned vacation, the hack has been a nightmare for employees. The invaders may have had access to their personal information, including Polish identification numbers and passport details, leading the company to tell staff to freeze their accounts and report the security breach to relevant parties, said the people familiar with the matter. Workers were also asked to ship their computers to the company's IT staff to be scanned for malware and other intrusions, the people said. So it seems like it's a much more severe hack than CD Projekt would have us believe at the beginning. Because they said, no personal information has been compromised, just a few, legal bits and bobs, but evidently some of the staff information has been compromised, which is a real big problem. And these guys are getting screwed over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not a great situation for anybody involved. Cleaning up all this shit. It's going to take time and effort, and the fact that this delayed the game is bad for the players as well. So nobody's left this situation unaffected, and it's just like it has nothing much to say about it, really. It's just an unfortunate event. I mean, I feel very sorry for the employees who have to change. Their account details compromised. Have to change their what did they say? Freeze their accounts and report security breaches. Oh my God, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Yeah, absolute nightmare. We can't really be angry with CD Projekt. I mean, this is one of the times where you just got to give them a pass. I mean, for all the shit that they've caused by releasing the game in early access, not in early access, but in such a bad state.
Might as well have been.
They don't deserve any of the blame for this. I mean, you shouldn't, you should not be held to ransom, and you should not blame them for having to delay the game where they technically can't do anything about it, and it's just like it seems like it's going from bad to worse for them at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, some people will be being malicious online because that's what people do. They deserve this for releasing a bad game. It's like, right, we can be critical of the game, we can easily be critical of the management because everything that has gone wrong has been on their decisions. But the regular employees, they're just ordinary people, and they've been screwed over. They've done absolutely nothing wrong. They've done nothing to deserve this. They probably worked really damn hard to release that, on whatever their part of it was, like the music or this. I made a really nice looking Coke can, and I'm real proud of that. And now I've had my bank details leaked to random people on the dark web. So
it sucks.
But yeah, I mean, we'll get the patch eventually, and people will, maybe be appeased a little bit. Hopefully the patch, when they can work on it and they can solve these IT issues, hopefully that will boost the game a bit. Hopefully more than a bit, but I don't believe it will. And things can start to swing back in our favour, and we'll see another No Man's Sky situation. But that's probably quite a way off.
I'm hoping to get the game into a playable state so I can enjoy it for the first time. I think I'm like 6 or 7 hours into the main campaign of the game, and that's where I froze it because I'm waiting for the game to be updated and fixed up so I can enjoy it while I play it. I mean, obviously, I'm not annoyed by this delay. I'm going to give him a bit of leniency on this considering the situation. But yeah, I'm just one of them people waiting for the game to be updated. If it takes another year, though, that's as long as I'm willing to wait. I'll wait as long as it takes. I don't want to play the game in early access. I want to play a full fat Cyberpunk 2077, please. But I am willing to. There's plenty of games, plenty of things to do in the meantime. That's for sure. Because
the game's not going anywhere. Like, it's not an online game that they can shut the servers off like EA would or something. You've got it, and you can just sit and wait and play some other stuff.
There you go. So that is the update on the Cyberpunk situation for those of you who hadn't heard the news. And then let's move on to the next segment, which is the community segment. So we're going to read some questions now from the Patreons over on the Discord channel. And in order to ask us a question, it is a reward for the supporters of our content over on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Pretty Good Gaming. So if you do want to get early access to the podcast by 2 days, you get it released on a Friday, whereas the public gets to see it on a Sunday. That's one of the rewards for being a patron, as well as asking us questions on the podcast and access to the patron-only area on the Discord. Sign up at patreon.com/Pretty Good Gaming. So let's move on to the questions. There's always a big one to start, and I always give it to you. So, Henry. Actually, before we do that, apologies. I always read out the people who have donated this month, they're taking the decision to support us. And this week, Dioto Orion has increased their pledge from $1 to $5. So thank you very much for the increased pledge. Every single dollar makes a difference to us because because without support we wouldn't be able to continue making content. The fact that we are able to generate content at the moment is almost a bit of a miracle, let's be honest. So if you are of a mind to support the content and you do like the content, please consider signing up for a donation and keeping us going. So without much further ado, Henry, let's take the first question.
Right, this long one. Okay, it's from Lord Crisp. You had a comment in the podcast of week 6. Bloody week 6, that was a long time ago. Surely that's got to be like 86 or something. Surely that's a little more recent. Anyway, that mentioned more coverage of stuff like indie games. It got me thinking, is there a reason you don't cover that stuff on main, in inverted commas, videos? You say you often talk about it on the podcast, which is correct, but you also often mention yourselves that you guys only have so much time to spend on leisure things. Everyone else has the same issue. For example, talking about indie games on the podcast is, for most people, the same as not covering it at all. Yeah, arguably so. It's only the invested people like us on the Discord that cares enough to actually see or hear the podcast. Optimally, you would make an actual video with your thoughts on those things. Excuse me. For example, your thoughts on Hades. That was that was put into not just one but two podcasts. Obviously, you guys loved it enough to talk about it. I guess my question here is there a reason you don't at least cut it out of the podcast and release them as cutted segments on YouTube? You do have dwindling subscribers, and more frequent videos is good for the algorithm as far as I know, and generally better for user engagement. That was quite long.
Is there a reason you don't at least cut out the podcast? Is there a reason? Yeah, it's again packaging it up in another video. I mean, I guess we could do that.
We've done podcast segments before, but most of the time when it's indie stuff, people don't care. Like it's doing a dedicated video on it. It's a lot of work for very little outcome. But cutting it out of the podcast is reasonable. But because our podcasts are over, we're separate. There's all of these extra issues of technical issues, and we're out of sync, and it just makes it less digestible. I think anyway. I think it may be something I could do. I'll have a think about it. I mean, sometimes I might do it, but
it's difficult because if you're cutting out a piece of the podcast to use as a regular video, a lot of the times you're going to have to stick B-roll over the top, so it's not just our ugly faces. So because people want to watch a more engaging video, and then it takes some editing too.
Yeah.
So again, it's not just a case of like just trimming it and throwing it into another video and then uploading it and sticking a package on it, because you need an intro, you need an outro, you need media on top. So it takes some editing, it takes some back end work on YouTube to program it, do a thumbnail, all that sort of stuff. So there's a time investment on that side. More frequent videos is good for the algorithm. I'm not so sure it is. In my experience, having worked on YouTube for over 11 years and having actually it's 12 years now, having scrutinized the algorithm for much of that time and agonized over what went right, what went wrong, what works, what doesn't, I've built up a certain amount of experience. And in my experience with the algorithm, it doesn't matter how often you upload a video. It does not matter at all. What matters is the engagement and how long people stick around in the video, and basically how much like a previous video your videos are. So the algorithm loves videos that are the same. Like that's why you see 5 videos to do with Fallout 76 in a row on the Young Age channel, because they all do pretty well. Everyone knows what to expect. Everyone watches through it. A diverse content doesn't work with the algorithm on YouTube. So to start an indie feature type thing is a hiding to nothing in my eyes. The more consistent types of content, the better. The fact that we're leaving this podcast on this channel now really doesn't help the algorithm, because not a lot of people click on the podcast versus the regular shows. In fact, it's not that much of a disparity these days. But the daily triples do get a lot more, in general, a lot more views, and people stick around to watch them. So, yeah, I wouldn't take the assumptions about more content is better. I take that with a pinch of salt, that's for sure, because there's a lot more to it. And also YouTube also likes to move the goalposts every so often just to fuck with you, in case you've got an insight into how the algorithm works, and so to make it become an exploitable, so that people can't just like print money with it. So it's I just, again, we've tried it in the past, and again it's questionable whether it does work or not, but it's definitely something we could think about. It just has to be done right.
I mean, yeah, that sounds like we've answered that. The short answer is YouTube's algorithm is fucked, and will do what it wants.
It's not as easy as all that. I know I thought I'd go through that just to show you, just to explain to you. So instead of saying not quite sure about that and then moving on, if I give you a little bit of my insight, then you can start to see that it's very muddy. It's not just clear. It's a very muddy situation. But thanks anyway for this suggestion, Lord Chris. We appreciate it. And indie games. You covered one on the podcast on the Daily Triple this week, right? You just what was that new one that's coming out?
Completely spontaneously. So I was looking for a one extra segment at the end, and I didn't. There were a few like medium-sized things, but nothing little. Normally it's like a trailer or just like a single fact or something. And then I found this game called Narita Boy, I think, and it just looks really cool. It's like a 2D pixel art Metroidvania, which is a very, very broad description, I know, but it's meant to be heavily inspired by like 80s sci-fi, and you're a guy who gets sucked into like some digital world, very like Tron, and the gameplay's got like a sword, and it just looked cool. So I thought I'd shout it out, and it felt very spontaneous, so I thought it was fun.
That's good. It appeases a lot of the people asking for more indie coverage, that's for sure. And I
think it's out in March. It's on basically everything, including Game Pass, so I'll probably jump in.
You don't even have to buy it. There you go, if you've got Game Pass. Okay, let's move on. Angry Hobbit Zero is the next questioner. And he says, not game related, but I need to know this. Gaz, do you get taught the Welsh language in schools over there? Yes. If you go to a Welsh medium school, you get taught you get taught as Welsh as your first language. In an English schools around here, Welsh is the second language, so you go to a Welsh class, and you'll learn it Welsh through there. But the schools that I went to, all my lessons were through Welsh, because I went to a Welsh primary school, Welsh secondary school. The only class that wasn't Welsh was the English class. That was English. But I learned all maths and science through Welsh, so all the terms that I've got in my head to do with scientific terms and mathematical terms, they're all Welsh, which was a bit of a problem when it comes to translating that to the English speaking world. But yeah, that is the short and curlies of it. Welsh language is not dead, and it is taught in schools.
Well, there you go. I mean, I don't know any Welsh, but I can't add anything, so I'm just going to move on. Where are we? Is that? No, I don't think that's a question. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's from Dayoff. Henry likes to say he loved Dishonored. I mean, I like to say as if I don't really. He likes to say that, but he doesn't really. He's a fake fan. But I don't recall if he ever played Thief, which inspired it. Has Henry, or Gaz if he cares to comment, ever played Thief, The Metal Age, or its direct sequel? I enjoyed Dishonored, but couldn't decide if it wanted to be a stealth game or an action combat game, and in my opinion it showed. I'm still holding out some hope we get a proper Thief spiritual successor one day, because whatever the fuck that Square Enix remake was not proper Thief. I hear it's on GOG right now for cheap with fan mod fixes, so it runs on proper modern systems if you wanted to try it. Thief, I understand it's one of the pioneering stealth games, but it's a very PC game, and as I've explained, I didn't have a PC growing up. But I did play for like 5 minutes the Square Enix one, and I didn't like it. That's all I knew about it. I played it for a bit, and I was just like, not for me. Like, there was something about it, it didn't click, and I did mean to go back to it and try it again, because it just wasn't what I was in the mood for then. But I never did. But Dishonored is where it's at, man. It's Dishonored is definitely a stealth game first. It's got action in it, so you can fight if things go wrong, because it wants to give you more options. So I think there's a lot of games walk really, really hard down the stealth line. Dishonored tries to be a bit of both, but I'd still say it's a stealth game first, personally.
Yeah. When did Thief come out? Thief Deadly Shadows 2004. Thief 2 2000. Okay, 1998, which was the same year as Tenchu Stealth Assassin. So yeah, that was the game that I played. I played Tenchu. So Thief the Metal Age was 2000, a couple of years after. So yeah, when it comes to stealth games, I was interested in Thief at the time, because I was being 17, 18 years old around the time of the original Thief game. For some reason, I just veered towards Tenchu, and I love Tenchu, and I always have done. So those are my roots in stealth kind of games. But yeah, I never played Thief, and I don't think I'd play such an old game now, because I don't think they age really well. And stealth isn't my favourite genre either at the moment. I play another Tenchu game, but I don't really enjoy stealth that much. I don't know. I just can't get around the. It's just the spatial awareness inside a video screen, inside a TV screen, that gets me, like, having to know all the angles and look all directions. It just overwhelms me, and I'm just shit at it. So I'll be honest with you. Yeah. So it's not my favourite genre, but I was more of a Tenchu player too. But thanks for your question, Dayoth. What was still enough for some get some proper thesis pleasure? Yeah, hopefully it answers your question. Next up then. Oh, we got another question from Dayoth in a bit, but Durlux first. Now that you're both hardcore PC gaming players, which one of these 3 titles are you more excited for? Diablo 2 Remastered, Diablo 4, or Diablo Immortal? So there's a bit more information about each of these games here. Diablo 2, if Warcraft 3 Remastered is still a shit show, imagine Diablo 2. And then Diablo 4, which he says, Diablo 3 at launch was a shit show. Remember when people couldn't log into the servers for a single player game? The marketplace, the uninspired idiotic storyline and the dialogues. And then Diablo Immortal, don't you guys have phones? Are you excited for any of these?
So there was a BlizzCon event recently where they said Diablo 2 remaster's coming along, and it was a bit of a semi big news story, but I just don't care. It's not something I'm really interested in. I played Diablo 3 and it was pretty fun, but it's not, as you say, the story I thought was rubbish, but it was fun to play with other people, and I'm not crazy about the loot grind, as I've said many times, but playing it with other people made it quite fun. Diablo 4 does look cool, so out of all of them, probably Diablo 4, and I didn't know Diablo 3 at launch was so poor, but given that it's Activision Blizzard, I would expect the same sort of situation. So Diablo 2, don't care. Diablo Immortal, I don't care. But Diablo 4 is probably the one out of all of them. And even then, to be honest, I don't care that much.
I'm exactly the same, pretty much. I think I might try Diablo Immortal if it's free. Is it a mobile game? It has to be free, right? I don't know. I tried them all. I'd be interested in them all. I'd have to see what the reviews are like. But Diablo 4 would be my... I just like to see what they've done with the game. I did enjoy Diablo 3. I completed it, and I'm itching to play it again once Henry finishes with it and sends me the cartridge back.
Well, we haven't seen each other for a year,
yeah.
So
yeah, I think I will play it again at some point. But yeah, Diablo 4. I'm just interested to see what they do with it, because I do rate Blizzard as a development studio, and I think. They do have well thought out games, and I'm pretty sure that the game will be fun. So yeah, not overly excited about it though.
Okay, now we've got another question from Dayoth, if we're ready to move on. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Liked it or didn't like it? Should they make a sequel? This is another long one, so bear with me. Should they make a sequel in medieval/Renaissance Europe again, or should they try something different? I, for one, think they have a ton of potential creating historical open-world FPS RPGs like Kingdom Come Deliverance and exploring histories in other areas of the world. Because basically, they'd be the Final Fantasy of historical RPGs. Kingdom Come 2 could be ancient Babylon or classical China. They could have one in pre-industrial Spain or Portugal, and we get to experience early firearms and entirely different melee combat. Brackets, because shields and armour started going out of style when gunpowder became more widespread, so thinking musketeer or colonialism kind of eras here. Not yet done my first Kingdom Come Deliverance playthrough, but damn it, do I want to see those sorts of sequels now, where they focus on a different region/culture or a different era each time. I didn't play Kingdom Come Deliverance. I kind of wanted to, but I never got around to it, because it's one of those... It's very realistic, so there's quite a high barrier for entry. So I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool," but it's not what I'm in the mood for right now, and that time just never came. But yeah, I love the idea of a decade or century hopping franchise where it's a totally different story each time, but you're a different setting. I don't know, for ancient Japan or ancient Babylonian would be really cool, or ancient Egypt, any different time period. Because that's what Assassin's Creed sort of was known for, and now it's known for being shit.
Yeah. Kingdom Come Deliverance, I played it. I highly anticipated it before its release. It did have problems with bugs around release. It was developed by an independent mid-range mid-tier independent studio. I did like it, however it was probably too slow for me. There's a lot to like about it. It was a first person RPG, which meant that went for the immersion side, and it took time to walk around, and there was a mission at the very beginning where the town watch guy would walk you around all the different viewpoints in the town just to show you all the buildings and that took like 20 solid minutes of just walking around and taking in all the sights, which if you have time to spare and you're invested in that immersion and you want to live the life of a knight in medieval times or whatever, then it's great for you. However, it was just too time consuming for me. That's why I think it wasn't gamified enough. It was too realistic in my eyes to be that much fun. There was a lot of things to like about it, but I think the lessons going forward, I think they could have just made it a little bit more palatable in terms of not to require so much of your time just on basic things like walking around in a very early mission. But I'd love to see different time periods for sure. I do love the medieval time setting though. I would take another a sequel. I'd definitely be interested in the sequel to see how they've changed the formula. It just reminds me of like Elder Scrolls series a little bit. And I think what Elder Scrolls had over it, even the Oblivion, was that once the very beginning tutorial part section of the game was done with, you were your own person. You can go and do what you want, and the world opened up to you. It's not kind of like that you can do that in Kingdom Come Deliverance, but you're a man. You're on a mission. You've got friends, and you're Henry. You are Henry.
I won't lie. That is a reason that I did want to play it, because I knew the protagonist had my name.
Oh look, Henry's come to see us. Yeah, I had my criticisms of the game, but I did enjoy it to a certain extent. I would like to see it expanded and just improved to see what they could do with the sequel. That's for sure. Thanks for the question. Question number 2, Day Off, and Tons is next and last, I believe. And he says, by now we all know Anthem is dead. You probably talked about it in this very podcast. Indeed we did. My question is, how are you guys looking at the future of BioWare? The list of studios EA has killed over the years, legends like Westwood and Visceral. I feel like the Mass Effect remaster and Dragon Age 4 don't connect with the audience. If the Mass Effect remaster and Dragon Age 4 don't connect with the audience, this might be it for the legendary studio. How do you guys feel about BioWare and its future as a studio?
Yep, I fully believe that less Mass Effect, because that's basically a home run, because that'll sell, because people have been begging for it for ages. Dragon Age 4 is a bigger question mark, because there's a few development problems and teams moving around and stuff. If that fails, I don't see much more of a future for BioWare. But that said, it's not really traditional BioWare anyway anymore, because most of the higher up vets who are there have fucked off to other studios and moved on to greener pastures. So
yeah,
the team that's there now is virtually just a new studio.
I think that is the crux of it, is that I think it was December, it was announced that Mark Dara and Casey Hudson were leaving the studio, and they've been the backbone of the studio. I mean, Casey Hudson had been away and came back again, but Mark Dara had been there since years and years, and the fact that the two of the biggest names in BioWare have left, like, is it even BioWare then? All it is just I know there's a lot of people there who had worked there for years, but they could easily just throw in a new management team and decide that I want to call it something else and not BioWare anymore, or disperse some of the, and just reassign some of the employees. It wouldn't be a big stretch, is what I'm saying. If the leadership have gone, it's not going to be a big stretch. It's just to wipe them out and start again, and reallocate the staff, let's say. So I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen for the sake of the heritage of BioWare. But I wouldn't put it past EA in the slightest. EA is EA, and it's going to do what it feels is best for the bottom line, and that's it.
That's just the end of it.
That is the end of it and the end of the questions. Thanks everyone for leaving the questions. If you've got a question for next week's podcast, leave it in the podcast questions section on Discord, and we will pick it up and read it out in the next podcast. Next up is the section everyone loves, which is the Chicken Fanboy Comment of the Week. Right, Henry, strap in. Gambit77 says, you're so ignorant. Hong Kong is a city in China. For a long time, it was a British colony. Sorry, for a long time, was a British colony, but the British returned it. You're thinking of Taiwan. You shouldn't talk about politics because you're dumb.
I mean, you could swap in loads of places. You're thinking about Taiwan. You're thinking about Tibet, because China doesn't like to let other people have things. Right, so there's a full name for what Hong Kong is, and I'm trying to find it. Yeah, so Hong Kong is a Chinese special administrative region. It's its own place which governs itself. Yes, it's not a state. It is part of China technically, but they run themselves with their own little government on their own. And did you not fucking see all over the news for weeks and weeks last year the little thing called the Hong Kong protests and the Hong Kong riots and whatnot, where police were beating the shit out of people protesting because they didn't want China to have more power than they needed? For a quick recap, there was a bill that was going to be passed which meant that criminals in Hong Kong and a few other places, it extended to a few other places, criminals in Hong Kong could be extradited to China, where China could do whatever they want with them, and China has a notoriously bad rep for treating prisoners. Just look at any story over the past year. They've been doing all sorts of shit. And the civilians in Hong Kong weren't having any of it. Literally millions and millions and millions and millions of people protested. So maybe switch on the news if you're going to try and talk about politics, because you're dumb, and use is instead of it's, you little fucking weasel. Gambit. Ooh. Oh, there you go. A harsh rebuke there from Henry. Throwing in the you're thinking of Taiwan. No, I'm not.
You're so ignorant. I mean, is he really? Just because you choose that China owns Hong Kong, and we choose maybe to report that it isn't owned by Hong Kong, and then it wants to be independent, and many people are willing to die in Hong Kong for that fact. I mean, if you ignore the political status, political situation, and you ignore those facts, then China technically does own Hong Kong, but there's more to it than that, and you're ignorant in the fact that you're not acknowledging that, just in order to throw that ignorant word at Henry. You ignorant motherfucker.
I mean, just to quickly be a bit more specific, according to Wikipedia, there were, in the Wikipedia page, 2019 to 2020 Hong Kong protests. 2 people died. There were 2,600 plus injuries. 10,000 people were arrested. 2,450 people were charged. And 5.35 billion Hong Kong dollars, which is 755 million US dollars, was done in property damage. So it's a pretty big deal that this place will having some problems. So maybe I'm not talking about Taiwan. Like, it's recent news. How can you forget?
I don't know. He's got his own agenda. He's trying to prove something.
Maybe he is Chinese. Maybe that's the case.
Yeah, maybe he's Chinese. Maybe he's a pro-Chinese person. Either way, say it like it is instead of just trying to beat around the bush and make out that we're ignorant. Just tell us you like China. Tell us you support China. There's nothing wrong with having a point of view. Anyway,
you just have currently the wrong one.
Yeah, there you go. So that's the Triggered Fanboy. Do you have any comments from non-triggered people this week, Henry?
Okay, I thought this one was quite funny because I didn't even realise it. I think it's from last week's podcast, which was Nintendo Direct Rundown, the medium impressions, Triggered Fanboy, blah, 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 blah. Nintendo Direct Rundown specifically. And this person, Raven Knight, who comments regularly, he comments regularly and often comments like multiple times, said, good analogy, since the Direct was pretty shit.
What was that analogy?
For the rundown, it took me a minute. Like when I read it, the Nintendo Direct rundown must be like shit running down your leg or something. I thought it was quite funny because I didn't notice, and clearly you didn't notice either. So I thought that was quite a fun little accidental pun.
There you go. So I've got another one here. We talked about it earlier, but Peter Clark came up with the middle name Henry. I've got a very good PC now, just in case you haven't. I haven't mentioned it yet. Cooper. In response to that comment, L Waves comments, Henry, splash it all over Cooper, or Henry Brute Cooper. although that one may have been used already. And then Peter Clark comes back. Henry shit-faced on a trampoline, Cooper.
I mean,
All
I
of
like
which.
that one. They're all accurate and fair.
There you go. Yeah, so I did like them.
So on one, I think it was Tuesday, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which is a really bloody long name and very difficult to say. When I'm recording that, I fuck it up so many times. Has been all but cancelled by the publisher. The publisher took it away from the developer because it was in such dire straits. But then I made a comment saying, I tried to make this one shorter, but my internet still let me down because the upload was really slow and it didn't. I wanted it to be out earlier, then it was a bit late. Someone, Fatcap, with PH, Fatcap, said, "Don't worry about it. You're always letting us down." With a little heart emoji, which I thought was quite fun. And all I could say in response was, "I can't dispute that." And I thought that was funny.
That's fair. On the Vampire the Masquerade story again, Gregory Gunn comments, I guess I know what Jason Schreier's next hit piece is going to be about.
I mean, hit piece is a bit unfair because...
I wouldn't say hit piece. I think that he gets paid to produce hit pieces these days, and he manufactures... I'm going off on a rant, I know that, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but he does kind of use the evidence that in his favour in order to position these companies as the bad guys. Always does.
True, I think
hit piece would be accurate in my
But
opinion.
I think maybe... I think hit piece suggests that it's undeserved. I think many of these companies do deserve it. So I think a hit piece is undeserved, and like you're pointing at them, but even though they've done nothing wrong, whereas I think these companies have done something wrong, so I don't think hit piece is quite justified.
Fair.
But that's a semantics game. Anyway.
But yeah, it's a matter of time, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's talking with the current and previous employees from who's developing it? It's not it's Paradox's.
Yeah, Paradox is publishing, and Hardsuit Labs were developing, and now they've just been sacked.
Oh right, yeah. Oh, there are plenty of people to talk to about.
Yep.
There'll be plenty of people to talk to, previous employees and the like.
So I've got a little one here from, I think it's Friday's video, which was the main story was about Konami maybe outsourcing some of their IPs to a few different studios. There's always a rumour something going on with Metal Gear and Silent Hill stuff. And this person, Carful Lynch, said, "Henry, I really appreciate that you put things under a bit of analysis rather than reading verbatim from articles." I like seeing comments like that because so much of what I don't watch it, but I'll click on a video and all it is them reading word for word this sort of 800-word thing, and it's so dull. I'm like, if I want to read it, I can read it myself. I want you to summarize it, break it down, and get to the point. And I glaze over. I watch virtually zero news channel, like gaming news channels now, because I can do it better. I just do it myself. But yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it because I think more people need it.
Yes, that is true. So smokification comments. So, does leaving a comment boost your stats? Because I've been watching all your videos and asked this previously, but you never answered this question before. If it makes a difference, I'd be happy to leave a comment on every vid, along with a like. Just can't afford to miss a single pound, but be happy to help in any way I can. Nice question, Smokification. Yeah, apparently the algorithm likes when you click like and when you comment. It means that you're more likely to be served up one of our videos in future. Our content gets bumped in your algorithm, which means that we get helped. It helps our exposure. I'm not sure whether it necessarily helps us get a wider audience, as in people who haven't watched our videos before get recommended our videos more. I'm not sure about that, how that works. But it definitely helps you see more of our content if you comment and like, which in turn definitely helps us. And like you said, if you can't spare £1 for Patreon or $1 or whatever it is, then that is definitely a way that you can help us continue to get views and prosper.
Yep, and it's nice and easy, low effort. So I like that you said. I like that you opened it with apparently it helps because no one really knows. No one really knows how this bloody.
It might help
algorithm
today.
works.
It might not help tomorrow. We don't know.
But if it just to cover all bases, just do it. Yeah.
Do it. Yeah. Kick the bell, that helps too, apparently.
Yeah,
it's
that's
one of the YouTubey things to say.
So I've got a handful of comments that are all about the same thing, and it was just a bit of validation for including that little indie game at the end. So Jerry Coolmanio said, Narita Boy looks pretty cool. Thanks for putting it on people's radar. Where's another one? Yo, that sword game from the 80s is so dope, from Matthew J. And then I think there was one more pretty close to it. Where's it gone? I did have it, but if I can't find it, that's going to be... There it is. From Peter Clark, recurring commenter in today's episode a few times. Narita Boy, I have to say, I'm quite excited about this. It's been a dry few months on Game Pass, so it's nice to see everything new and stylish coming out. So, I'm glad people appreciate it. I don't do it very often, but that one just literally popped up right at the moment. I think I was on Eurogamer looking for something little, and it was there, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty sweet. Let's throw it out. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Nice bit of validation. Okay, my very last one this week is about the Outriders segment that you had. And Felipe Carvalho comments, how is Outriders not a live service? I mean, you got a point. It looks, it smells, and it tastes like a live service. Why isn't it a live service? Well, simply for the fact that the guy making it says it's not a live service. So that's the only information that we've got. Like, I guess outside of the fact that being a live service is a poison chalice at the moment, we don't want to associate with all the failures in that genre. So pitching your game as not a live service is probably the best thing to do at the moment. Who knows whether there'll be microtransactions and cosmetics and all that sort of nonsense in it. We don't know that for certain yet. It's Squeenix Publishing, so that's a bad omen there. But we're not sure. Live service means that they're not supporting in future. Maybe it's just a multiplayer game with a main story. It's like a single player game, but it's a multiplayer game, and it's not a service, as in we're not generating content over the long run. I think that's what he means by that. We're not going to be supporting it into the future. It's dead on day one, just like Anthem is now. It's dead.
I mean, yeah, like they could be just bullshitting. It could actually be a live service, or it could be completely old school and they launch it and that's it. They don't do a single thing near it. They immediately move on to the next project.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's some sort of combination where like they'll launch it and then they'll do full DLC packs or something. We don't know. All we have is the boss's word, and it could well be bullshit, but still going to jump into the demo, because if it sucks, then you just don't buy it. Simple. And no one does demos anymore.
Away, yeah.
No one does demos anymore.
You see it straight away, and I think that for that very reason alone, the fact that nobody does demos, or if they do, you can play it early access, you can get access to our beta if you buy it now. It's like, what the fuck? It's not a beta. That's a marketing ploy, is what that is. It's trying to get you to part with your money, and promising people to play it early in a bad state. That's just nonsense, is what that is. Give us a decent demo, give it us for free, and this is what People Can Fly have done. And we appreciate that. We like it. We love it. We're going to support it. I'm going to download it after I've finished this podcast. I'm going to go over there, stick it on my PC, and jump into the Discord and see who wants to play with me. That's for sure. And that is the end of my comments this week. Do you have a...
No, that's my lot.
Any more?
I'm all out of comments.
That's your lot. Okay, so let's move on then to the next segment of this podcast, which is the Bad Dad Joke of the Week. This bad dad joke is courtesy of Frozen Monkey on the Discord. Archaeologists excavating a pyramid in Egypt have found a mummy covered in chocolate and hazelnuts. They believe it to be the Pharaoh Russia.
That's awful. Russia. That's really bad.
Frozen Monkey, you have my salute of approval. It's so bad,
Shocking.
It's good.
But it's not. I just think it's far too clumsy.
Pharaoh Russia. There you go. What else needs to be said other than thanks for watching the podcast, and thanks for supporting us. Patreon.com/prettygoodgaming really helps. Please do that if you can afford to. And we'll see you again in the next podcast. On behalf of Henry and myself, thanks for watching. Bye for now.